Welcome everybody to both sides of the conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Sunday, so you know what that means. It's our Sunday conversation, and today we're going to have a great conversation as we tackle understanding and combating health disparities in our community. As we talk about health, we know it's an issue. We got some serious problems when it comes to our health. Getting access to health coverage. When we talk about mental health, a number of things, great conversations we've been having. I'm just happy to be back, community. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but my Wi-Fi is acting up. I guess it haven't seen me. It's like, Bishop, you haven't been on, and we're going to mess you up today. I'm ready for the curveballs, but just want to say, one, I'm happy to be back. I know, community, y'all told me to leave. I stepped away. I gave the platform over. Everybody's calling me. Where you at, Bishop? You ain't on the air. I haven't seen you. I thought y'all wanted the bishop to go. I guess y'all want the bishop back. I love keeping controversy going on. I guess that's what they think is controversy when I'm on the air. But I'm here, happy to be back. I've been on the road, community, okay? And I've been a lot of places. And in these places that I've been on the journey of the past into the future. I don't know. I've been all over the South. I've been going through this civil rights era. I've been going through some of the things that we're talking about in reparations, how our community has been impacted. I don't know. I get some things. I have some new energy. I don't know. My energy was going away. I was falling off like a cloud, real soft somewhere. I don't know where I was going, Mark and Io, but I was moving around somewhere. And then all of a sudden, I got to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And everything changed. Something hit me. My mind changed. My thought process changed. I don't know. I'm coming back energized or revived, as they say. I thought I lost a little life, and I've been compressionally working myself back up. But I'm here. A lot of things to tackle as we get ready to kick off this week. A short week for me. This is my last week, community. Okay, I'll be back. I got one more historic thing that I need to take care of. And then I'll be back for good. We'll be getting our guest up. I know y'all been like, where's everybody at? We're coming around. I know it's football season. The Niners are playing today. Folks are all over the Bay Area enjoying the good Sunday. But again, we got to get into this conversation, real conversation. A lot of things impacting our community as we continue to community build and find a way to uplift the next generation of young people. How do we hold on to our sacred information, our history, our future? It all counts on us. I don't know, but Sister Io and Mark, welcome. I'm here. You guys have been doing a phenomenal job. Okay, the Sunday conversation last week was so inspirational. I mean, you guys have been doing a phenomenal job with the guests, our educational Thursdays. I've been tapping in, checking in, seeing what's going on, and you both have done a phenomenal job holding up the show. I'm excited to be back, but you all have done a tremendous job. How y'all been doing? How's everybody? I'm happy to be back.
Well, we glad to have you back, Sister Ayo. Want to definitely thank you for standing in because she held it down back to back all on our own. So I know we definitely missed you, Bishop. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to talk to the community, and being a part of both sides of the conversation really does give us an opportunity to celebrate some of the amazing folks that we have that are doing wonderful things and showcase some of the businesses and entrepreneurs, but also have those deep conversations that can move us forward in a level of awareness and accountability. So as always, man, it's such an honor and a privilege to be part of both sides of the conversation. So welcome back.
Wow, yes, definitely. You. Welcome back. Whew, I can breathe one day. Good afternoon, community. Happy Sunday. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and sticking in there with us while the bishop's been gone and in community and doing what he needs to do, the necessities and, making sure that he makes an appearance and putting that stamp of approval for both sides of the conversation out in the community. And yeah, glad to have you both back, should I say. I truly appreciate our following and everyone who tuned in on Tuesday and Thursday and kept me going in the comments. I truly appreciate our community. Just glad to have you both back.
Glad to be here. Glad that you all were able to hold it down. Io, you look like you in heaven right now. You got this heavenly light. I don't know. Your spirit is in heaven.
I'm not in my usual area, so you guys have to Excuse my lighting. Sorry. It's the halo. It's the halo. That's what it
We'll
is.
take the halo today. Okay, you got extra favor on you today. The light is shining on you bright. All right. Well, with that being said, community, we are looking forward to today's conversation. I'm gonna turn it over to Mark to get to our community news, and then I'll get us to our events. And then today we'll jump in to the conversation. So, with that being said, brother Mark, the voice of both sides of the conversation, tell us what's going on in the Bay.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump into these headlines. And our first headline reads Bay Area rents see biggest drop in 27 months. In August, the Bay Area experienced its largest year over year decline in rent prices in 27 months. Rents decreased by 4.3% in the San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland metro area and 3.1% in the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara metro area. Statewide, rents in California fell by 2.4% in August. This shift in rental market has allowed some renters to negotiate better deals, with many landlords offering incentives such as a free month's rent. However, despite these decreases, many low-income tenants still find the rents unaffordable. Christia Gerberensen, excuse me for if I mispronounced that, despite these executive she's the executive director of the Berkeley Property Owners Association, and she attributes the rent decrease to a surge in new housing supply. This increase is partially due to the recent housing legislation that has enabled faster permitting for new projects. While the drop offers a reprieve for some renters, housing advocates stress that rental prices remain disconnected from most people's ability to afford them. Also in the Bay Area, San Francisco police arrest suspect after stolen car chase in Cow Hollow. San Francisco police apprehended a man from Hayward, identified as 29-year-old Brandon Smith, following a high speed chase in the Cow Hollow neighborhood. The pursuit began after Smith allegedly committed a traffic violation and subsequently hit multiple parked cars while attempting to escape. And after crashing into a property, Smith attempted to flee on foot but was later captured. He now faces charges including hit and run, possession of a stolen vehicle, felony evasion, and resisting arrest, among others, and was detained in a San Francisco jail with his court appearance pending. And in national news, United Workers strike against big three automakers. The United Auto Workers Union has initiated a strike against the big three U.S. automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, marking the first time in history all three have been struck simultaneously. Despite these companies reporting record or near record profits, the union aims to recover benefits lost more than a decade ago during the industry's financial crisis. The UAW has made significant demands in wages, benefits, and job protections. As the strike enters its third day, UAW President Shawn Fain indicates a considerable distance between the union's demands and the proposals from the automakers. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is closely monitoring the situation, with senior officials actively engaging in supporting the negotiation process. And also in national news, cop finds kilo press used by drug dealers in tragic New York City daycare. A tragic incident occurred in Divino Nino Daycare in the Bronx, where a 1-year-old boy died and three other children were hospitalized due to suspected fentanyl overexposure. The daycare's owner, Gray Mendez, may have rented a room within the facility to an individual connected to the drugs. Police discovered less than a kilo of fentanyl and a kilo press, typically used by drug dealers to mix fentanyl with other drugs, in the apartment. A joint task force of the New York Police Department and U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is currently investigating the deadly event, and the daycare owner is being interviewed. The, inter- the incident has left the community and parents in shock, with the New York Police Department commissioner terming it every parent's worst nightmare. Now, that is truly, truly a tragic story, y'all. Yeah. Well, Io, I'll turn it over to you for the community events. Hopefully, you've got some better news than that.
Man, Mark, this fentanyl issue is becoming a serious crisis in our community, and we'll be talking about that shortly. We'll be having our DA come on This fentanyl is out of control, and our young babies can't even go to a daycare. The stuff's so potent that even if you touch it or be near it or inhale it, it's causing tremendous havoc in our community. So prayers out to that family. And again, community, we got a lot of work when we talk about this substance that's taking over our communities and taking away so many lives. Over 1,500 people an hour are dying from fentanyl across this country. So we got a lot of work to do. But Sister Ayo, get us through the events all the way from heaven. Ayo's in from heaven.
Let your voice be heard at the San Francisco Human Rights Commission Board of Supervisors hearing on final reparations recommendations on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. There will be a rally on City Hall steps at 12 p.m. and the hearing starts at 3 p.m. in City Hall Room 250 at 1 Dr. Carlton B. Goodlett Place in San Francisco. APRI and Swinnerton are teaming up to bring you the STEM at the Park for high school students who have a passion for exploring careers in STEM fields. Saturday, September 23rd, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Indian Basin Shoreline Park in San Francisco. Don't miss out. The Empress Theater hosts film director Brenton Geyser's feature-length documentary, The 50, on Thursday, September 28th at 6 p.m. at 330 Virginia Street in Vallejo. Q&A to follow the screening. New vaccination site, COVID-19 booster and monkeypox antiviral pill treatment. Thursdays, 1 to 5 p.m. at 330 Ellis Street, as well as Saturdays, 12 to 4 p.m. at 1221 Mission Street. The community living room, open all day, Monday through Friday, breakfast 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and grab-and-go lunch 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. at City of Hope Cafe, 750 Ellis Street in San Francisco. Join the conversation at the YMCA Men's Harambe Cuts Shop Talk for ages 14 and up and complimentary refreshments and swag Thursday, October 12th, 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Bayview YMCA, 1601 Lane Street in San Francisco. Push Dance Company's Sanctuary grand opening will be Sunday, October 15th, 2023 at 447 Mina Street in San Francisco. Tickets are on sale now. International Shakeout Day on October 19th. Join in on the world's largest earthquake drill. Register to participate. YCD presents the second annual District 10 Safety Plans Violence Prevention Peace Rally. There will be food vendors, raffles, music, and more. Saturday, October 21st, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Monarch Gardens, 428 11th Street in San Francisco. The San Francisco Safe will have a Halloween candy explosion on Saturday, October 29th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is free, and the event will include food, carnival games, music, and more at Gilman Park, 903 Gilman Avenue in San Francisco. Farmers Market located at the Southeast Community Center, 1550 Evans Avenue, San Francisco, every Thursday from now until November 30th from 3 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. They accept cash, debit, and EBT. OMI Cultural Participation Projects, The Lion King, Friday, December 8th, 7:30 p.m. at the Orpheum Theater, 1192 Market Street in San Francisco. Wu Yi presents the Holiday Pajama Jam for the Bottles and Blankets Pantry on Saturday, December 16th, from 1 to 4 p.m. at 4900 3rd Street in San Francisco. They are a new nonprofit and donations are needed. OMI Cultural Participation Projects, The Wiz, Saturday, January 27th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. at the Golden Gate Theater, 1 Taylor Street in San Francisco. San Francisco Human Rights Commission has regular bi-monthly commission meetings on the second and fourth Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. in the San Francisco City Hall Room 416. You can also attend via Zoom. Be a mentor in SFUSD. Join SFUSD school-based mentoring program. Mentoring for Success. Sign up to volunteer as an individual or group mentor district-wide. Would you like to promote your business, nonprofit, or community impact? Sign up for our Hidden Gem show. Share your expertise on our Educational Thursdays and be a panelist on our Sunday's conversation. Keep up with both sides of the conversation's latest shows and community outreach events. Follow us on all social media platforms. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at bsotc.org. BSOTC welcomes individuals who are interested in giving back to their community to join us as volunteers. We value the positive impact volunteers can make and invite you to be a part of our mission to uplift and support our community. BSOTC kindly requests your invaluable support for our podcast and community engagement endeavors. We cordially invite you to explore any of our donation links, as your generous contributions will greatly aid us in enhancing our programming. We would like to take this time to acknowledge the Dream Keeper Initiative and its support of BSOTC's programming. The Dream Keeper Initiative amplifies the voices of and invests in San Francisco's diverse Black communities to reform public safety and address structural inequities in San Francisco. Join us this Tuesday, September 19th, for our Hidden Gem segment at 7 p.m. That's PST. Educational Thursdays. Please don't mention Educational Thursday. Well, that's our cue.
I don't know. I come back one day and everything is going under. I told you, I don't know what's going on. My internet, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, community. My first day back, I don't know what's going on. Everybody's
That's dedication and focus right there. That's dedication and focus.
What is going on? All right. With that being said, today's conversation is a very important conversation as we're talking about understanding and combating health disparities in our community. We have to come up with some solutions. Health is one of the biggest issues in our communities. When we talk about this COVID increase, access to medical services, there are so many cuts that are happening medically that's impacting our community. Very, very important conversation to talk about. So looking forward to today's conversation. With that being said, I want to go ahead and introduce a brother that's coming back, passionate about the people, talk about this, and then we'll read the stats of what's going on in our healthcare, and hopefully community, you'll chime in, leave some comments, because I want to hear from folks in the community as we embark on what is this new medical service looks like for community. As we heard, there's cuts in Medi-Cal and different things that are helping that's hindering our community from getting access to healthcare. When we talk about mental health, it is the hardest thing to find right now as a mental health provider, or just finding someone that could give you medical support. It is flu season. They are predicting this to be one of the worst flu seasons. I did take my flu shot this week, and I'm feeling a little, but we got to do the right things to take care of us as COVID is still rising in our community. A number of folks have caught COVID over the last couple of weeks. So it is starting to still be an issue in our community as we approach the wintertime and things getting colder and things of that nature. We will talk about a little bit of all that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my brother, General Parker. He's coming back, y'all. He's always a great conversation. General, welcome to have you back, brother.
Hey, glad to be here.
Man, today's going to be a great conversation. Looking forward to it. I'm glad that it's a small space, intimate. We can have a real conversation. Hopefully we can get our community engaged and figure out ways that we can really combat these disparities that's impacting our community. With that being said, Brother Mark, you want to go ahead and look into the stats and statistics that we found about what's going on when we talk about health?
Absolutely, Bishop. We'll go ahead and go through the intro and some stats here because health disparities continue to disproportionately impact the Black community at alarming rates. From higher maternal mortality to increased risk of chronic illnesses like diabetes and heart disease. These inequities stem from systematic barriers that are embedded in our healthcare system. So today we're going to take a deeper look at a sobering health statistics in the Black community and discuss actionable solutions that can finally help us achieve health equity. One of the first stats that we have here, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die during childbirth or within 1 year of delivery compared to white women. And 13.8% of Black adults have been diagnosed with diabetes compared to 7.5% of white adults. And 40.5% of Black adults have high blood pressure versus 29% of white adults. And Black men have a 30% higher cancer death rate as compared to white men. So it's not anything different than all the other stats when we compare Black and white people here in America. I think from the institutional foundation of this country, we know that it has never been set up for us as a community. And while these stats are sobering, I don't think at this stage it's shocking. So I think we really do need to talk about community, how we can take ownership in the part that we can control in increasing the health disparities within the system.
Man, definitely important. We gotta definitely talk about this. This Tuesday, as you heard from the events, there will be a rally at City Hall for reparation as the conversation continues on about reparations. One of the things that's in the reparation ask from the committee is about healthcare services and access to change some of the things that are happening. When we look at overall health, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, we are impacted at a high rate than most other communities. And, this is a conversation that we got to have and figure out, how do we do our part, but then how do we hold these systems accountable to making sure that we get the right care, the right diagnosis and the right access to services. So, I want to kick it off there. And open up the conversation in general. You could jump in there and we just go talk about this because it needs to be talked about. And it's impacting us even more as every day approaches here.
Well, I'm just going to go and address questions that were brought to me. And the first one was what issues contribute most to these glaring health disparities for Black Americans. And I think we all can agree that the social economic aspect is one of the major issues that keep us from providing us with the healthcare that we need. And we also have to deal with the structural racism that is rampant in this country. And we also have our own barriers to healthcare access and the historical trauma and stress that our people have been through, so you mix that with the cultural barriers, and these are the conditions that we find ourselves in. And it's been historically that this country has never cared about the health of our people, from the time they enslaved us to till today. They never cared about our health. Matter of fact, I read an article just a couple of weeks ago when Theodore Roosevelt, back then at the turn of the 1900s, when he was president, he was trying to get universal health care. And he caught so much opposition because Blacks would benefit from that. See, this country never wanted us to benefit from anything. They always want us to participate in the liabilities and the responsibilities of this country, but never in any other benefits. We can go and fight in all their wars, but then we come back and we still not treated as a first-class citizen. We fought in every war they had in this country. So I think reparations would be one of the things that will help alleviate some of these issues, but those are some of the things that contribute to where we are in our healthcare today.
Yeah, when you think about service care, and I think about this all the time when we talk about PTSD and, some of the things that's taking place and why Black folks are so opposed to going to the healthcare, even during COVID, because of the fears of how Black folks have been treated by our healthcare system, are still afraid to seek services. They're afraid to go into the hospital. I'm thinking, one of the things that's, how do we change that narrative when it comes to getting access? And I know it takes the doctors, the providers, and the institutions to really change that, narrative on that end. But as community folks, as there has been a great push from a number of medical entities who have been trying to reconnect, reestablish relationships in the Black community to build that trust. But I think in COVID, it kind of also smeared a little bit because the medical professionals couldn't put a true handle on what was going on with COVID and couldn't give a direct, clear position on the stance of the vaccination and different things of that nature. It turned a lot of black folks off, and then you talk about the high level of um, infant mortality rate that's happening right now with women
Mm-hmm.
having children and things of that nature, right? Women asking for pain support to go through these procedures, and they're being looked upon as substance users and things of that nature. How do we fix this from our community standpoint? Because all we can really fix is what we do here in the community. There is a push and advocacy that is happening day to day when it comes to our medical professionals and medical institutions. But how do we change the mindset in our community?
Well, you got to understand that this has been historical. So black folks are justified, in their mistrust of the healthcare system. I mean, when you hear stories about Henrietta Lacks, you hear a story about the Tuskegee experiment, and that went on from the 1920s to almost 50 years to 1972. Okay. And they're steadily telling these black men, well, we're giving you medicine to help you, when they wasn't giving them anything. And they were just trying to see how this disease was going to affect people. I mean, and that's not the only time. You can go back to slavery. They said they came up with the term droptomonia, saying that that's an unhealthy mentality of black people wanting to be free. So when you look at things like that, and the things that they've done to our communities, and the things that they put in our food that cause us to be unhealthy, and things like that, doing these uh, uh, experiments on us that we never even know about, so it's justified. But at the same time, we got to take responsibility for our own health. Okay, we got to say to ourselves, we are the ones who are ultimately responsible for our own mental and physical health. Okay. And the way to do that is through education and awareness. We got to realize that there are cultural disparities and implicit and structural biases in the healthcare system. I went through it myself. I had caught COVID in 21. I went to the hospital. They had me in ICU. I had COVID with pneumonia. And they had ordered, the initial doctor had ordered the antibodies for me and antibiotics. And the doctor who took care of me in the ICU just had it hanging up there on the IV thing. He wouldn't allow the nurses to hook it up. And then he kicked me out a couple of days later. He wouldn't let them feed me or anything. And the nurses were saying, well, you got some tests coming up. I said, nobody even told me about a test. So I was in there, I was getting hungry, I was getting sicker, and then he's telling me he's going to release me. And I said, so you the one that told them not to hook the medicine up, right? And the nurses had no idea about it. One nurse felt so bad, she came to me, she said, you know what, Mr. Parker, they just brought me some food from the Chinese place. You can have it. He had us really thinking that you supposed to got tested. I didn't know they were doing this. I had to discharge myself out of that hospital, drive 45 miles west to another city and go into another hospital. And they looked at me and they said, wow, we see you just left the other hospital. What happened? I said, you tell me, we'll both know. And one of the nurses said, I don't understand that, Mr. Parker, because the type of pneumonia you had, you couldn't have got better on your own. You would have had to come to the hospital and seen us that got better. So why did the doctor even order it, not even allow them to administer it to you? So those are the things we get. We just got to take control of our own health. We got to realize that. We got to build strong relationships with our providers. That means talking to them, and trying to understand and let them know that, hey, I'm here to get better. I'm not here to put money in your pocket. I want to know what's going on with me. If I don't understand, talk to me till I do understand. And you don't always take that doctor's word as the gospel. When you leave that doctor and there's something you don't feel right with, go get a second opinion. Okay. You don't leave everything up to that one doctor. You got to make sure that you know what's going on with your body, because if you allow them to do that, even like with the vaccines, that's why I wouldn't take none, because they never showed me anything to show me that these vaccines actually help. And most of the people that I know who got the vaccines end up dying. I had a cousin who had kidney disease just like I have, okay? And she and her husband took it, and she died 2 weeks later, okay? Now, I got kidney disease, and they said, well, if you got any underlying factors, well, that was an underlying factor for me. But everybody pushing me to go get the vaccine. I could have been just like her, got the vaccine, and I died 2 weeks later too. But that would have been on me because I put all my trust in everybody else and everybody else's feelings. But no, I'm responsible for my life and what goes into my body. See, so until they show me that what you're doing is really actually working, no, you can't put nothing inside of me, you know. So that's on me. If I die, it's my decision, but it won't be by your experiment. Okay. So
I agree with you because there's a mistrust, I say, that comes when it comes to authority because of the racism that follows,
right.
specifically for especially for African American women. Um, they feel African Americans in general. Let me say, there's a stereotype attached to us going into the hospitals and saying that we're abusing the pain medications. So they give you the lesser medication
That's right.
that isn't going to do anything for the actual pain. So you become immune to these and you need and seek for something stronger. Hence, going to street pharmacists, trying to get some type of coping mechanism to ease your pain. They
Right.
will limit you, especially if you're hospitalized, to how much they give you, increments on the hour. And then they leave you, they send you home with something like ibuprofen, where it isn't helping to adjust the pain at all. You become relying on these little things and over abusing the medication that they give you because you're
Exactly.
just trying to ease that pain. So when they see in your chart African American, they automatically, you're going to get the generic version. They're going to issue it in increments, and you're not going to actually get the care, especially if you don't have the proper health coverage, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and things like that. They're going to look at you lesser than, and they're going to treat you as such. A friend of mine actually did a kind of a coup where she put on her form other. She didn't
Right.
say African American. She just put
Uh-huh.
other. And so when they came in there initially, they were like, she's like the nurses. She actually wrote an article about it. They came in, they were like, everyone's talking. She said they continuously tried to slick and ask her, what is your nationality? What is your ethnicity? And she said, well, I identify as other. I am I'm multiracial. And she said, from what her primary care doctor would give her and the treatment,
Uh-huh.
opposed to when she marked that, she feels there was a vast difference, a vast difference. So the stereotype and actuality that comes with the care that we receive as African Americans, it gives you some type of reasoning to be cautious when you are seeking care in these hospitals, especially going into the ER, because you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. And our sisters, I hate to say it, our sisters get this worse than anybody. You know, when I used to advocate and was an activist back in Illinois, where I'm from, I had a white woman come to me one time. And she was at one of the shelters. She said, Mr. Parker, she said, I need you to know this because I know you speak out a lot. Is that I found out that in our hospitals around here, there's such a disparity in the healthcare, and they treat the black women here so bad, especially when they need pain medicine. Okay. They always minimalize anything that a black woman says, and they maximize a scratch for a white woman, and a lot of times they've been denied healthcare, and we need to do something about it. Now, this is a white woman coming to tell me this. Okay. So, anytime somebody white come and tell you, it's got to be bad. Okay. So,
And I guess my question is, in 2023, is any of this surprising to us? Because again, there was a book written in 2007 called Medical Apartheid: The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. And this was, again, everybody's heard of the syphilis study, the Tuskegee experiment. But there are so many examples that most people don't know of where, I mean, all the way from the chattel slavery days, where there was open experimentation on Black people, no anesthetic used. I mean, again, just the severe abuse of chattel slavery itself and the ideas that these systems have all operated. I don't understand why we still are honestly expecting them to do right by us systematically. And this is the part to where we have to own our own existence here. Understand, like, I mean, we're basically behind enemy lines. I know America says it's a great melting pot, but we know that there's a great contradiction between what America professes to be and the reality of what it truly is. And the more we take ownership and we tap into our some of our ancient historical traditions of diet and nutrition, meditation. There are some very practical things that we have to do consistently across the board to take back what we can control and deal with the system the way it is. My mother was a nurse for 27 years, 26 years of her life. She took blood pressure medication. Medication never got better. She had cancer 3 times, and the chemotherapy did more damage to my mother's body than the cancer ever could have. And
Exactly.
then I also, like say, in my days in pastoral ministry, I had doctors that I counseled who literally wanted to walk away from their practices because the pharmaceutical companies were pushing them to write prescriptions. It wasn't about healing people or getting people well. It was about managing symptoms so that they could keep people on these pill cycles and keep people as customers. So the system is about making money, not helping people feel better. And every
Exactly.
time they give you some type of recommendation or they advertise some new wonder drug, they always see a couple of months or a couple of years later, they come back with all these lawsuits that are available because the side effects are so crazy. And whenever they can publicly advertise a medication that can cause you to have suicidal thoughts, and we don't step back and use some common sense and just look at this system, then we're doing ourselves a disservice at this point if we're still expecting them to deal with us straight up and when they never have. And
No,
I
I don't
think
think that
that is
we.
part of being healthy, is
I
knowing
don't
the
think.
truth.
I don't think that we expect them to. It's just that at this point, sometimes that's all that we have left. Because if you remember back in the 60s, the Panthers took it upon themselves to put healthcare centers in all our communities. Okay. They even started the WIC program, okay, where they were feeding these children and these mothers who were pregnant and stuff. That's where the WIC program came from, even though the government don't want to give them credit for it. We knew that we had to take control of our nutrition. We knew we had to take control of these things, but look what happened. Every time we get out and get on our own and do our own thing, whether it's Tulsa, whether it's Rosewood, Slocum, Texas, or even the Black Panthers, okay, things like that, the MOVE organization in Philadelphia, anytime Black folks try to get out and do their own thing, the government always comes in and wipe us out because they don't want that to happen. They have a plan for us, okay? But that's one of the things that pissed me off about Obama, because I was in his campaign heavy, there in Illinois. I mean, they would call me up for anything they needed, and I was there for them. I was a delegate for them and all that. But when it came down to their health care, and I had friends I knew was dying because they didn't have the money to be able to go get the treatment that they needed or buy insulin for their diabetes or anything like that. But when he had the opportunity to get us health care and make it single payer health care, okay, universal health care with a single payer, it didn't happen, okay. And that's one of the things that really pissed me off about him. But like I said, even with Teddy Roosevelt, anybody, anytime they tried to make it to where we would get health care, the predominant culture here always stood up and went against and opposed anything that would provide for us. So we need to get back to where, I mean, it's either do or die. You know, there was a guy I worked for, well, I volunteered for. I would go up there every weekend, driving to Chicago, 175 miles each way, to help mentor the youth up there. And he had a motto up there: educate or die. You know, we either got to educate and find out what we need to do to survive, or we gonna die. Just as simple as that. So this is where we started, by doing things like you doing, Bishop, by getting the word out there, And then it's gonna take some courage, and people are gonna have to just stand up, because it's gonna be do or die either way. You might well die standing up, instead of laying down or on your knees, So we got to take control of our own healthcare. So I seen somebody put it in here. I want to bring that up too, about gynecology anything you could talk about gynecology because of what they did to our black women back in the day. Okay. And then they learned how to make the instruments that was needed. They didn't give them any anesthesia. They let the hollering and all that just keep going on, and that's probably one of the reasons why they think black women are faking when they talk about pain, because they know what they put our women through. See, and it's just unreal. But they claim that we're the violent ones, and we're the animals and stuff like that. But let the real history be told. They can't even look at themselves, and I think that's why they fight so much reparations and everything else, because they have to look at themselves in the mirror and see exactly what they've done over the ages.
Yeah, one of the things that's very interesting, as I told community, going down doing the civil rights tour, um, you hit something that I think is very important. I think we've been saying this for a while. No one's coming to save black people in this country.
Mm-mm.
And it's really about how do we build this ecosystem of support and services that we impact our community. When we talk about the apartheid in our community, we have a food apartheid, we have a health apartheid, like all these issues that we have in our community. The only way we're going to fix it, we're going to have to come together. I asked this question, especially in the nursing field. There's so many more black nurses now, doctors across this country. How do we get our own health center? How do we get our people to create a new experience of health and healing from our community, right? You look at Atlanta. I'm just using Atlanta as a vocal point here because that's the mega of black people right now across this country, with all of the wealth and education opportunities down there, and even in parts of different parts of the states. How do we get into a position where we can bring health to our community? Right? How do we get these nurses and doctors on the same page to build their own ecosystem of health to help our community out? Because I just don't see the dynamics of our health changing if we don't take full ownership of all of the things that impact us with these disparities. Even with health, the black population has the largest disparity when it comes to diabetes, um, high blood pressure, cholesterol, cancer. And it's like, I was listening to Dr. Sebi, and I was listening to some of the folks who do a lot of, natural herbs and healing. And it's like, how do we get back into that and really move away from this Western medicine, right? Because even talking to folks who study medicine, there's so many more things that Eastern medicine does for healing and different herbs that Western medicine, and again, we know the pharmaceutical companies drive this because of their profits and the things that they want to do. How do we change this? And then how do we get our young people involved to become dentists, become doctors, become, gynecologists and the next generation of mental health and providers that our community needs?
Well, I think the first thing is we got to pay them, Bishop. Let's be honest. The reason why everybody does what they do, particularly in Western society, is for money.
Exactly.
Everything is controlled by finances. As a community of black people in America, the last number I heard is we have an estimated like 1.7 billion or trillion-dollar economy that we spend annually as black people. So if we could just organize, not everybody, we ain't gonna get everybody, we know that. So if we could get 15-20% of black people to organize our money and make sure that we only spend it on health care, we only spend it on our own facilities, our own doctors, our own nurses, and we give them the financial security. It's not like we don't have access to the information. It's like we don't have access to the knowledge. We even have access to the resources. Like $1.7 trillion economy, we would be the 10th largest country in the world GDP wise. But because most of the money that we get, we send it out to other communities. We don't have a sense of nationhood to where we are self-sufficient even within America. We don't have to overthrow the whole system to do this. We can peacefully, within the system we are, just organize how we funnel our spending, and we could finance our own healthcare system. We have the capacity to do it. We just don't have the organization or the sense of urgency yet. It's too many people, too distracted. Yeah, we haven't healed well enough to know the power that we have of just being unified and working together.
Unification will cause for people to be selfless. We have the manpower, we have the resources. There's a lot of Black millionaires and billionaires who could actually fund and pour back into these things, but that selfish mindset, you do the couple of every now and then kiss the baby things and take a picture. Oh, I gave back to my community. You haven't been seen in 20 years since then. Oh, we did a turkey drive. These type of things. Even organizations within our communities who are getting these grants and these fundings, who are not doing the work, who are not actually utilizing those resources to pour back into the community for us to be able to rebuild our community. They're pocketing the money. You try to make it look good, but you have a selfish mindset. I've said it numerous times. People lose sight of the goal. To refurbish, replenish, reset our communities, we have to stop thinking like crabs in a barrel. We have to have that selfless heart, empathy for one another, and not thinking about, I'm at the top, so it's about competition. It's about collaboration, so everyone can rise up. Do you know how much powerful we would be collectively? They wouldn't be able to stop us. Our own doctors, our own nurses, our own hospitals, schools, everything inclusive for our people. How much more powerful will we be? However, certain people get to a certain level in life and they forget where they've come from, and or not that you have to always revisit that place, but to remember what your roots and your ground is, why you were fighting so hard to become successful, why you were fighting so hard to become and put the work ethic in. Pour that back into the community. That's not hard to do. It doesn't cost money to not have to be gatekeeping and tell these young people how important work ethic is. It's not about giving handouts. It's about pouring back.
Sister White, I want to submit.
Say that again,
I want to submit to you that they don't so much forget where they came from as that they remember. And a lot of people, once they have walked through the door, they close the door on them because they don't want no more of us coming through. And I submit to you, because we would say this a lot over on Urban Intellectuals, that, it's this system that we're fighting, okay? And this system is white supremacy. And not as many people like myself and the rest of you guys are as interested in dismantling that system as those people with the money are as improving their position in that system. See, they want to be in that position and improve their spot there to the white people, that they don't even care about those of us that have been left behind, and help them get through the door and push them through the door. See, because they trying to show Mr. Man, I ain't like the rest of them. I was a good Negro boss. I was a good Negroes, yes. So keep me along, take me along with you, forget the rest of them. See, so they just trying to improve their position.
Yeah, and it's very terrible to just think that's what we've become, where we could be going. But again, I think you hit on something general about the education. I think education is a big part of it. When we talk about the things that impact our health, a lot of the things traditionally that we need, we're not getting. And I say that because, going on this trip to the South and learning about some phenomenal civil rights leaders and folks who are about moving Black equity, Black folks forward. This information is not there. So I think we do have to go back to educating our community, understanding what's being put in our food, understanding what these chemicals are, and I'm going to do my part. I want to go ahead and reach out to some of the folks that I know that works in poison control. I want to reach out to some of the folks who, do these studies about what being put into our food and how it impacts us, because you could see from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, even with the lack of great healthcare, but how great the number changed in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
And everything that we eat, it's just terrible. And when you do have communities like ours that are underrepresented, social and economically impacted, the access level to good food, organic food, you know, the food that's organic and good for us costs so much that, you look at the income barriers that we are faced with. A single mother with 2 or 3 kids just wouldn't be able to make it.
Right.
That's how much the cost is. I mean, you go into a Trader Joe's, or you go to a Whole Foods, or you go to some of these stores that truly sell some of the food that are good for us, and the people that we in our community just wouldn't be able to make it. So going back to some of the traditional things that we need when we talk about building this health ecosystem, we talk about building the Black ecosystem of things that is needed. Going back to farming and growing our own fruits and vegetables and doing the things that we need. We're going to have to come to that sooner than later. I mean, our backs is up against the wall now. If we don't change the type of food we're intaking, if we don't focus in on the environments that we live in, these
That's another
environments
thing.
will take us out, man.
Exactly what I was going to bring up, because we used to fight for environmental justice too. See, it ain't just the food we're ingesting; it's the surroundings that we live in. Because why do you think they never put a factory next to a rich community, a gated community? Where I grew up down in the Taft Homes in Peoria, Illinois, there was a Path Blue Ribbon right next door. I ain't talking about it was right next door, and we could smell that stuff every day. And a lot of the people that I grew up with, man, it was almost like every week or once a month somebody was dying from cancer or asthma and stuff. And this is like 20, 30, 40 years later. See, we had to go through that. I had moved away when we were younger, so I probably didn't get as much as the rest of them did that stayed down there all those years. But it's bad when you live in these areas where all the power plants are put up, the steel mills, the chemical factories, all these things, man, and we have to breathe and ingest that stuff, or it's put in our water and stuff like that. It gets into our soil, all that stuff is coming down on us, and there's some of the socioeconomic factors we have to deal with and live with. But not only growing our own food, we need to get our own community away from everybody, get our own spot way out where ain't no factories and all that around, and we can grow our own food and do our own thing and live our own life and make sure our water is righteous, and hopefully we can start getting healthy again, especially if we raise up a couple of those young folks to be the doctors, the dentists, everything that we need, but we got to get back to not only doing for ourselves, but being by ourselves. Because every time they left us alone, like I said, in Tulsa, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, all them little towns, like a whole bunch of Black Wall Streets we had, people don't even know about, But when we were doing all right by ourselves, they had to come in and interrupt us, every time. But you leave us alone, we can take care of ourselves, but they just won't leave us alone. They won't let us get educated, I mean, it was against the law for us to be allowed to read back in the day, And then when we were allowed to read, we were given a terrible education because they wouldn't provide us with the books and the stuff that we needed, until the Brown versus Board of Education. And then I still think to this day, they still doing it, So we just need to have our own. I ain't one who's stuck up on all this integration, all that stuff, Segregation is fine with me as long as you're not trying to keep me from all the good stuff too, But you can keep me with my folks. I love being by my folks. I'm unapologetically Black, and I love seeing my sisters walk down the street and stuff like that, or a strong Black man, I can converse with, and we taking care of our community. I love that and wish we can get back to that, But so many people are stuck on want to be integrated and let's come together. And I don't want to. I want to be like a salad, I don't want to be like the soup. I want to be like a salad. You the tomato, I'm the onion, they're the mushroom. I'm fine just being the ingredient that I am, and I can add to it when we come together. But other than that, I don't have to be no melting pot.
You know, General, go ahead, Sister Io.
I was just gonna say, my dad grew up on a farm, and he always says, "This fruit is not real fruit." Like, even going to where what my sister calls whole paycheck, which is Whole Foods. My dad is like, "I don't care where you shop. This is not still is not real fruit and vegetables." Like growing
Right,
up on a farm,
right.
comparing the two, even where you think that you're getting these organic and fresh fruits and stuff like that, unless you go into a farmer's market where it's literally land to table, like literally from the dirt, dust off, and straight
Yeah,
into the consumer's hands, what we're getting is still some way processed. If they're getting the navel oranges from Mexico, they have to preserve it some kind of way to get it here.
yep,
You get in like different figs from all around the world, olives from Italy. They have to preserve it some kind of way in order for it to transport to get it here. So I am all for us building community, but it's about our communities not having
right,
proper soil.
Yeah.
You
And,
want to have these
right.
gardens, you want to have these farm like type of organizations, but we don't have the soil. We
Yeah,
literally have to start from the ground up, outsourcing from somewhere else to
exactly,
go to build that type of
exactly,
community.
exactly. And like you said about the stuff coming from Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, everything coming here, the longer the shelf life, the shorter your life. You eat that stuff, and the longer it can stay up there, and then you eating it, the shorter your life gonna be. They got a Big Mac somebody held on to didn't change over years. The meat and the bread and
The
everything.
French fries too.
Yeah. And this is
yeah.
the stuff we putting in us, and we acting like it ain't gonna affect us.
And the rest of the world recognizes this. A lot of the foods we consume here in America are
Man.
illegal and banned in other parts of the world. Understand, it's hard sometimes to talk about this because the hardest thing to do is get people to change their mind or how they think about stuff. And we have been marketed and sold that America is so great and so amazing and so awesome that we can't see through the hypocrisy to see that it's a corporation that only cares about profit. It will sell poisonous people to its food. It will sell poisonous chemicals in the name of medicine to its people. It will not educate its people, but indoctrinate its people. And all of
Mhm.
these things, I mean, now historically, we know black folks have always got the worst of it in America, but this is how America operates. And when you put all of that, like just big picture, and you look at it, you have to ask yourself, how can you expect to be in a toxic environment with a corrupt government, corrupt legal system, corrupt medical system, a corrupt financial structure, toxic food, and expect us to be healthy and not have issues?
Exactly. And America's not number one, like you said, like they try to make people believe. The only thing they're number one in now to this day, because they're no longer number one in education or anything else. They're number one in military defense spending and and the prison population. Okay. And they're number one in the prison population, and they're supposed to be a free country against regimes like Iraq, Iran, Russia, China, and all that. They even beat them people out. And they only make up for 5% of the world's population, but we got 25% of the world's prison population.
Yeah, America the Great. Contradiction that is. And again, I'm so glad that our crew is putting some of the things. Just community. If you just want to start, let's just talk about practical stuff. Here's some of the things we can do. Because again, even going to the grocery store is probably the first line of defense that we have when it comes to reclaiming our health. Spend as much of your budget or your time in the produce section. Again, it's not going to always be the healthiest. Again, anything seedless is not natural. It's been chemically or it's been modified in some form or fashion, but it's better than getting the packaged, processed, canned, shiny stuff that can sit on the shelf for 5, 6 years and never go bad. So we can start with some basics: eat more fruits, more vegetables, drink more water, get off the sodas, get off of the heavily sugared stuff, and just start picking up and looking at the ingredients in the foods that you buy, the foods you give to your children, the things you, if you can't pronounce these things, or just Google them. Now all you got to do is Google them. Pay attention to what you put into your body. You can't control everything around you, but you can start with what you can control by what you put into your body. And it starts with the food that we eat. So that's just one thing where we can start basic, everybody can do.
I know from experience when I transitioned to meatless pescatarian, I noticed a drastic difference in
Mhm.
everything. Just a transparent moment. I had lymphoma cancer some years ago, 2013. I was diagnosed, and I was like, I don't want to go the traditional route. I don't want to do chemo. I did my research and I found an amazing oncologist who is the lead at UCSF in alternative medications. Now, I started off on 12 different things, but these were not chemical based. And also, I noticed the foods that I was eating and having to transition from eating meats and a lot of processed foods and stuff like that. My diet base is, even though they say seafood is not the best, still it is a better alternative than beef, pork, and or chicken. I eat a lot of fruits. I eat a lot of vegetables. And noticing my energy level, my cognitiveness, my just being alert, being able to remember much better. All of these things started to happening, and I noticed it. Also making sure, like you said, Mark, my dad always said that to me. If you can't pronounce it,
There you
don't
go.
eat it. It don't belong in your body. So I understand that. Even with looking it up, there's always an underline, and then you have to read those cautionaries, like, oh, may cause this and that, may cause this and that. Like, that moment of pleasure, of that sensation, that dopamine that's released when you eat that cupcake, is it really worth it? So even opening up that broadened horizon for our community and letting people know, like, there are alternatives. There's a lot of I guess you would say vegan or vegetable alternatives to making cookies, to making cupcakes and things like that. They may not give you that same sensation of that gluttony feel, but you still get that sugar rush, that, but it's healthier for you, and you can still go out through your day without being sluggish. So opening up these resources and giving these alternatives to our people is also another thing that we can do.
They done got so slick that it ain't so much as like if I'm eating this bag of chips and what's on that, they can take an ingredient from that, and if you mixing it with something else, let's say like a soda or something else. I just heard something recently about this thing they call black goo, you know. And one thing, like they mix some soda, soy sauce, salt, and some other stuff, and they put electrical charge to it. So when this stuff gets in your body and receives that electrical charge, it does different things to you. So if you drinking a soda and you eating that cupcake, whatever ingredients they got in that affect the ingredients in the other thing that you're taking in, and it makes a whatever they're trying to do to you. So these people are so wicked and scientific, man. I don't put nothing past them. That's why I try not to eat, but you can look at me and tell they ain't been working. But
I mean, but you have to do a little bit. I mean, this last month I've been really working on changing my diet and working out, and definitely, you feel better. You're not as tired and things of
right,
that nature. But I mean, like you said, the small things. A lot of time people think they have to go to a gym, they have to be a member. But we have, especially here in California, we have so many trails, so many hiking places, so many things that you can do that doesn't cost money to stay in shape, walking. We have to get up off of our couches and just get out and do something. I mean, so many
right.
people in a house, and that's some of the disadvantage of this social media area, or young people tied to these video games. They sit in the house all day. when I was a kid, we was out playing. We was at the park. We was building stuff.
Yeah.
We was running around for hours, burning that energy. Now, with TVs and all this stuff, everybody's so consumed that
And the Xboxes and all
yeah,
that.
we're
Yeah.
not moving. But um, when we talk about policy wise, and this is where I always like, our elected officials and different things. There's so many policies, and I say this wholeheartedly. The insurance industry is the biggest problem in America.
The
And, and
biggest.
and as people, we're going to have to come together uh, to fight against these insurance companies. I mean, when you look at just how they control everything, insurance, you can have a house for 500,000 or $1 million, whatever, and you have to have 5 different insurance. You got to have flood insurance. You have to have this insurance. You have to have all these insurances, just to protect your home, when the value of the home doesn't change, right? So it's like, why you can't have one insurance for the value of the house, right? All these different things. But it's a way to continue to take money so that they continue to pump into their political leaders, so they can continue to make sure that these policies benefit their organizations and their profits. And we're going to have to change that model. I mean, you look at the increase, right? These auto workers are striking now. There's a number of professions that are going on strike now. The cost of insurance in this country is out of the roof. And we're going to have to find some way to combat the cost of medical insurance and just the amount of cost that it takes to provide healthcare services in this country. I mean, you could take an ambulance ride for 5 blocks and be charged $10,000 to go 5 blocks to a hospital, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. And we, as people, we're going to have to really fight. We talk about this progressive movement and what's going on across this country. We're going to have to put pressure on the insurance company. We're going to have to hold them accountable because they are the drivers, the greed of insurance on all insurance, not just in medical insurance. We're talking in all insurance. They are the reason this country is seeing this crazy, cost to get care. And when we talk about universal health care, everybody will talk about socialism and things of that nature. But what are we going to do as a community when it comes to how we get care and how we have access to that care if we can't control those costs? Because the more it goes up, the less Black folks are going to have access. Brown community is going to have less access. And it's just ridiculous. The cost is just out of control. So how do we get the policymakers to really, one, put a eye on insurance entities, on all spectrums, and then how do we get our local and folks to keep this health access and representation push forward because it's a need now. We have to do it. We cannot wait no longer. When you look at young kids, I know one of the things that UCSF did, they did give coverage to all the young people under 18. So I know if you're under 18 years old, you could go to UCSF and get any of services that you need. But once you turn 18, I mean, those services are cut. So we got to find a model that works. And we got to find, as community, to make sure that these topics is part of the political agenda as we talk about this disparity in our community.
That's the second time you did that today because I was just thinking about policy and you brought that up policy. But I think you read my mind or something, or you asked somebody about me. But I want to bring that up that we need to, since we're getting back into this election season and the presidential candidates are coming around, and then next year you have a governor and your Congress people and all them running for races, and they'll be coming back in your communities. Okay, and we got to just stop letting them talk. We got to put their feet to the fire. When they come and talk to you, you tell them that where do they stand when it comes to affordable insurance options for people like you and me, people on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. We also want to know where they stand when it comes to community outreach and education. Can they help to fund those things? How do they feel about expanding Medicaid and Medicare? Also, will they help to enhance, the cultural competency of our people in our community, that been left out for so many years? And will they help to address the implicit bias, when it comes to healthcare providers and the healthcare system? And what do they feel about in or making sure we have more community healthcare centers where we can go to, like down the street, like I used to have when I was growing up, instead of always having to go to the emergency room or drive across town to another hospital. I had to fight for them in Tulsa because they took the only hospital out of the Black community. You had to go all the way to South Tulsa if you wanted good health care. There were no other hospitals there. They took it away. So we got to address those kind of things, And also, this goes back a ways, but have you heard of ALEC, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council?
I haven't heard of them.
That's where you had a bunch of big corporations come together, and they had they got about 25% of the state and federal legislators in their pocket. Okay, and they write their own legislation, and they're all hooked up together. So that's your insurance companies, that's your pharmaceutical companies, that's the private prison industry, that's the McDonald's, that's the Nike, that's the Adidas, all these other companies, and they working together in the Sprint and the telecommunication companies, and they work together to help each other. Okay, so they come up with legislation that they want your state legislators and your federal legislators to pass, and that's why I don't see there's no difference between a Republican and a Democrat to me. They're just two different sides to the same coin because they both are provided for by the same sponsors and whatever that sponsor wants them to do. And they also hooked up with the military-industrial complex. Okay, so they're all hooked up together, and that's why they're trying to get more of us in prison so they get free labor. Okay, and then that free labor helps pay for Whole Foods, McDonald's, and the telecommunications industry. And you thinking you talking to somebody somewhere else, and you talking to a prisoner who's getting paid 13 cents a day, stuff like that. So they're all working together, man, and those are the things that we have to fight, because we can't just make no checkerboard moves, because these folks are playing chess. And I'm talking about Star Trek chess, where there's third dimensional chess,
Yeah.
You worry about what your next move is, and they 50 years ahead of us. See, they've already got this stuff planned out, so we got to come up with some different attacks from them where they don't see us coming.
And I think to line up with what General is saying, Bishop, to address what do we do, I think we have to have a hybrid model approach and three basic areas, because here's the thing. What's going to move legislation is just like organizations like ALEC. It's going to take money. So as a people, we going to have to organize and put together a financial block. Like we have to all come together and decide what's important for us and how much we gonna have financially to put towards it. Because any agenda you want to get moved through any government institution gonna have to be financed. So getting our money together, one. The other thing is getting our vote together. We all got to vote as a block. Ain't nobody gonna listen to us if we're disorganized and spread out on a bunch of different fronts. So we have to pick what it is that we gonna make important, put our money behind it, put our voting block behind it. And the other phase is at the grassroots community level. Look, we've got Black nurses, we've got Black doctors, we have access to education, both traditional, natural, holistic, and homeopathic. We put together a hybrid model in a neighborhood model where we have a minimum 2 to 3 people in every neighborhood, every community that are trained and educated on first aid, the basics. Because again, if it comes down to something, trauma, gunshot, stab wounds, we're going to have to take you to the traditional medical facilities until we can get you to a place where you can be treated after the fact. But when it comes to basic overall health practices, we're going to have to change our lifestyles and then make sure we have people who are trained and accessible within the community. So instead of calling out for help or having to go 10, 15, 20 miles to get basic first aid, we've got resources and people in our community already prepared, because we have to be able to take care of ourselves and be sufficient up to that degree.
Well, I think the basics is where we need to start at. I think, some of the schools have removed recreation time for young people, right? The kids don't have
Mhm.
PE, they don't have some of the things. We had a lot of more physical activity when we was growing up versus now. These kids are sitting in class, they're not doing anything. Um, but I think getting in touch. I'm gonna reach out to some of our folks out there who are nutritionists, and I think I've been trying to get it. I reached out to a couple of them um, to come on our Educational Thursday to educate our community about what we need in our meals and recipes. Because I think we've lost that, because of our single family homeless, because of the broken families, because we work so much, right? I want to bring some people in here. I've been reaching out to a couple of people, and this is what I'll be talking about when it is us as community. We have to take responsibility. And I heard somebody say it earlier. Too many times, our community folks are climbing the educational ladder, climbing the corporate ladder, and they're not giving back. Right? They're not bringing this information back to our community. So I'm gonna reach out to a couple more people that I've tried to reach out to. This is phenomenal sister that I know she's in nutrition. I'm trying to get her to come on to talk to our community about nutrition, even with what we're dealing with how food is processed and things of that nature. But some of the things that we can keep in mind, and then also bringing some of those recipes to our families. There's a lot of meals you can make in under 30 minutes. And how do we get our community transitioning back, right? And this is why I talk about the family dynamic, the structure. How do we get our women in the community back in the houses cooking? Because everybody just want to get their kids a Happy Meal. I got to get to the club. I gotta go do this, right? But how do we get some of these traditional values that people talk about back into our homes, and we focus on our nutrition for our young children and for our families? Because if we don't get back to one, stop going to Wingstop and stop going to these fast food restaurants, we're going to destroy ourselves faster than we think. And so, that's kind of my challenge that I'm always talking to community folks is how do we bring back the things that we need, right? One is having the education and information from folks who do this type of work, who teaches this, bring it to our platform. And we got to make these things cool again. You know, we got to get these women in the community who are chefs and different things of that nature to bring these classes, healthy cooking to our community, right? And then we as community have to bring these resources to our community. I know a lot of the communities in San Francisco are trying to do a better job of bringing, fresh farmer foods to some of the community locations. But we got to make it accessible. We have to make it convenient. But I want to see some more of that. Some of the traditional things that we've lost in school brought back to our community. When we talk about home economics and things that we learned in school that's not even there no more. But I think this is what we need. How do we pride our women in the community to get back? Let's have those challenges. See, and this is where I think we could leverage social media into different ways, right? It's one thing to just take pictures of food, but how do we encourage and influence our community to eat better, right? So maybe if we have more challenges of people taking vegetables and different things and posting those on social media, challenging other people to be creative with meal making, meal prepping, and things of that nature, because I think there is a way we could do it to really promote healthy eating, and then home cooked meals, just the traditional cooked meals back into our homes. But this plays right into reparations. If folks have the amount of funding and funds needed to function a family, I think we'll get back some of the time. I think folks are just so busy trying to run the rat race of keeping the lights on and the mortgage paid, that we're missing out on the opportunity to really do the self-preservation that we need. But the children is going to change it. So we got to focus on our youth.
But at the same time, go ahead, Mark.
One of the greatest things that I took away from this trip, this last week, the importance of our children. Me meeting one of the Little Rock Nine and meeting the survivor of the 16th Baptist Church. One of the things that they all talked about is, the future change happens with our young people, right? Because the civil rights would have been passed if it wasn't for our young people who left school to protest, to make sure that they were able to have their voices heard because the parents was working, right? Back then, people only made $20 a month. You get what I'm saying? So we have to empower our young people. And that's where the education comes in, because I believe young people change as parents too. You know, our young people encourage our parents to be better. And I think this health mantra that we need to take, and this um, you know model that we need to wrap around our community is going to take all of us. But it starts with our young people. The kids is going to be where we have to invest heavily if we really want to make that change. Because when I grew up, we would have barbecues and all our family, we ate ribs and all that stuff. And then as the uncles started getting older and getting colon cancer and pancreatic cancer, right? They learn from then to tell us, hey, you know what? Don't be eating all this barbecue pork and all this stuff because it's messing us up. But if we empower our young people and teach them and remove them from the fast food, because we've put that on them by being too busy, right? Parents can't cook. What do y'all want? Right? I want Pizza Hut. I want this. I want that. So we really have to find a way to really bring back the family unity. And when we talk about not only relationships, bringing back that family unity, making the things that we need in our home back to being fun. Because I remember being a kid and my mom was cooking. We would all be in the kitchen. It was, hey, you cutting this up, you getting this, and it was something to be proud of and excited, you know, to do, because it was like this meal is being created by all of us. So you got the cornbread, you got this, it kept us all engaged. And I think even now in the times that we in, how do we get our parents? And this is what we talk about inclusiveness and bringing our community. It's full wraparound. Get the young people in the house involved with cooking, and then have these models and these sheets of information to keep us grounded. Where are we getting our grains from? Where are we getting our produce? And have the kids think about the meal when they say they're hungry. What do y'all see in our daily chart that we should have? Because you get a little bit of it in school, you get a little bit more in college. But that nutrition stuff that we learned, it was like quick in and out, right? And I really want to bring that back to our community because I think it's so much needed. So to all of my nutritionists out there, all of the phenomenal spiritual herbalists that's talking about great food in our community, I want y'all to come on our Educational Thursday and put a presentation together so that we could talk about how we could be better in our kitchens to provide food. Because if you look at these health issues, especially when we talk about cancer, diabetes, some of the major health things that impact, our community. A lot of it can be deterred if we change our eating. This food is causing us to get sicker. And, how do we go back?
I agree.
Go ahead.
I agree with everything that you just said, but I want to add something to that. It's going to take more than just that education. It's going to take discipline too. Because like you said, they come home and they tired, whereas it's easier and more convenient just to go get the kids McDonald's, or Carl's Jr. or something like that. But until we get back to that discipline, because I remember when we was a kid, I think McDonald's was just coming around back over there in the East where I was coming up. But if we could have McDonald's every day. But my parents, when they were together, then they were just limited to like when we did something good, maybe at the end of the week we can go get McDonald's, but we're not eating McDonald's every day. See, so it's just like with the relationships you just brought up. People think when you're unhappy in a relationship, it's time to give it up. But that ain't what relationships is about. Relationships is about duty, I mean, you might go a long time being unhappy, but that's what relationship is all about, for better or for worse, sickness and in health, rich or for poor. You're not going to always be happy in your life as a single person. You're not going to always be happy, but you got to do what you're supposed to do. If you gave your word, and if you gave your word to your mate, then you continue to be a mate. You gave your word to raise your kids as a parent, then you got to be a parent to your kid. And I don't care if something is easier, and that don't mean it's better. Everything glitter ain't gold.
You show right about that, Journal, and that's the cost of it. Because I saw, I think it was Baby Kids put in the comment from Facebook, said that expensive, that healthy food is so expensive. So is being sick.
Thank you.
So is being, unable to get up
That's
out your
even more
bed. So
expensive.
what are you going to invest in? Are you going to invest in the quality food so you can have better health, so you can live a better life? Are you going to invest in preparing meals for your children? Or are you going to take the convenient way? Because what is made easy and convenient is always led us to our downfalls. A trap is a trap for a reason. A trap ain't hard to get into. They make it easy because they want you to be stuck into it. So yeah, you gonna have to change your shopping habits. Yeah, you might have to not buy them pork rinds and moon pies and cokes. And yeah, you might need to go and buy you some cauliflower and some spinach and learn how to hook up some kale and some zucchini. Like, again, if you value the quality of your life, it's worth the investment, because you would rather spend extra money on some healthier food than a bunch of money on medication because you at the doctor all the time. And I do understand. I mean, again, we got to call something. It ain't nothing gonna be easy or free. We got to pay the cost to be healthy. We got to pay the cost to be free, and ain't none of it coming cheap. So make the investment.
So Mark, I want to say this because I say this all the time. The biggest problem that we have in creating anything is we have no preventative measures, right? We have become the reactive generation, the reactive culture. All we do is react, right? So we don't take health serious until we on our dying bed. Or we don't take our health serious until the doctor like, hey, either you do this and this is it, right? This is what I'm saying. If every area that we deal with, we become the reactive people. We talk about violence in our community. There's no preventative violence measures happening. Everybody's reacting. Shootings happen, people show up. We're not properly planning and executing the things that we need to do as preventative maintenance to our people in all of these categories. So I think the real investment is how do we strategically and intentionally put measures in place, put these thoughts together, because we got to sit down and have a conversation, and it's going to start within the families and the community, but we got to have these conversations at home, right? Because we can see our little cousin already being obese. We can already see certain things, and it's like we can't be like, oh, it's okay. We have to really say, hey, how do we encourage it? Because the greatest addiction in this country is food.
True, but and John, I'll say this here, and again, y'all are in the perfect spot because you have the rich history in the Bay Area of the Black Panthers. Everybody didn't start off as a Panther. Everybody didn't even join when they was in their heyday, but it was a group of people who made up their mind and start setting an example. And when the
Exactly.
results started showing, other people caught on and joined. Yes, they came under attack, and we are still going to come under attack for simply trying to stand on our feet and do what's right for ourselves, because it's not in the best interest of the system. The system of capitalism is made off of oppressing people, and we just happen to be designated to be it, but we don't have to take it lying down, so we can resurrect that same thought process and example that the Panthers had. Take the ones that are ready now. We can't wait for everybody to get on board. Take the ones that are ready now, and we will grow from there.
Exactly. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. By the same token, you can lead a man of knowledge, but you can't make him think. So all you can do is just do what you do and hope people catch on. But they can't say that they wasn't shown and they wasn't taught. So
I know from experience, model behavior. I pride myself in sharing those things with my circle, with whomever is around me. I post it on my social media, ingredients, everything, me making my morning smoothies, me showing how to have, alternative to using squash and zucchini pasta opposed to using the regular white noodle pasta, and or utilizing wheat pasta and garden-based vegetables, and making sure that I incorporate vegetables in everything. You would eat my spaghetti and don't know that you're eating spinach in there. You would eat all of these different things that I make. Everything I make, I incorporate a vegetable. My kids don't even know it half the time. My lasagna, I always got some type of leafy green, something dark green in there. They don't even know it half the time. I can make a same meal that the recipes, like you said, growing up in the kitchen with my mom, I love to cook. That's my favorite downtime. So using these ingredients and recipes my mom gave me. She is a Creole Cajun cooking woman, and I love everything she ever made me growing up.
Them the best
But
kind too.
but to be able to make it more, to make it a healthy version, I have substitutions. Like when I want that meaty texture, I'll use lion mane mushrooms or some type of meaty mushroom instead. Like I said, I incorporate every pepper that you can think of, every color onion, and trying to make sure that we're going to the healthy food markets and stuff like that to incorporate it. My kids don't know half the time when I do cook, they don't even know half the time that I'm putting mushrooms or I'm putting some type of vegetable in it. My younger one is very picky. Everybody has a picky eater in their family. But if you mince it enough, they don't even know the difference. Somebody told me, "Oh, I don't like onions." Everything I ever cooked had onions in it, and you didn't even know it. It's your mindset. You train
Mhm.
your mind to what you think you don't like, and what you see is what you think that's what you want. If you don't see it, you don't know it's there. You are having all your healthy benefits. But like I said, on my social media, I share every ingredient I use in my morning smoothies. What alternatives, instead of having Yoplait, use this Greek yogurt. Go
Mhm.
a week without having dairy in your diet and see the difference. I went like almost now going on 2 years without coffee. I have a mushroom coffee. You see the difference. I'm a natural energy type of person. I have these like Suja shots, and they're all organic. And my energy level, I don't crash. I don't have that burnout. I don't have that angry attitude like I'm exhausted, especially when I'm working out as well. So incorporating all that model behavior is
Wait a
what
minute.
it's going to take. If
Hey,
you live by it, show them, be the example. Don't just say it, be a part of the solution. You can't tell somebody you need to do this is hurting your health, and you sitting up there drinking soda and eating chips and you snacking and you laying down after you eat. That's not model behavior. That's not helpful. So if your kids are seeing you do that, you go in your room, you hoarding your food, you hiding snacks, and you sitting there watching TV, you got garbage going in your mouth, garbage going in your subconscious.
and so, ladies, I hope y'all heard that, because she said what she eat help her not have that nasty attitude. So some of y'all ladies need to change your attitude by your diet. Some of
Now,
y'all is
I didn't say
mean
nothing
because of
about
what
when
you
I'm
eating.
fasting. When I'm fasting, that's a whole different subject, okay? My salon sisters, I see y'all in the comments, they know. When Io's on a fast, leave her alone, let her put her headphones on, okay? When I'm fasting, them weeks that I'm fasting, leave me alone, let me be, okay? I'm going through my cleanse, okay?
Y'all find the recipes for the food need to make you nicer, ladies. That's all I'm saying. If
See,
food can
Mark,
affect your mind
I come
state,
back. I
eat
come back
foods that'll
one
make you
day.
nicer.
I come back one day, Mark, and you already start with the lady. They go, I can't get a break. I come back to this, okay?
He's
But
been
I
on his
want
best behavior. You see what you do, it's your influence.
so I want to say this because I think Mark, it is important. I think the power influence is there. And I want to thank my cousin and Io because I've been really changing my diet, working out, and I've actually tried to like remove all of the meats, and I've been doing good. It's been about 3 weeks. I haven't ate any chicken and nothing, and I'm really trying to see how it is, right? Because it's like I want to feel better. I want to get back to this place of energy. I know I'm always going, so my energy is low, and I really been trying to change my diet and everything and working out. I've been back in the gym working out. But I can say this though, Mark, it is hard to find the food. So I get it when people try these diets. You go in the stores, right? You go anywhere. It's like you can't find anything. It's very no, it's very challenging. You have to be very strategic in eating. But you find the things that you like and you stick to it that's healthy. And you try to just do the best that you can. I've been eating a lot of carrots, tuna, and things of that nature. And I mean, I've been really feeling good. I rest better, um, you know, but it's like a mentality change. And we need this influence and we need it goes back to all of the stuff that we're doing. And it's just like we all got to work together, right? We have platforms, we have things doing it. Like, how do we get behind each other, right, Mark? And one of the things that I took um, from this trip, when I met this family, the Damer family, whose father was killed by the Ku Klux Klan, and he was a businessman. One of the things that I appreciated down there is they still have that family value. So they support each other. You know what I mean? If you doing this, I'm gonna get behind you. Not you doing this, I'm gonna go do what you doing. And you know what I mean? It wasn't a competition thing. It was just how we get behind what you doing. We're gonna make this great. And I think that's what we need in our community when it comes to food, when it comes to healthcare, right? How do we get behind and support and encourage people? But again, how do we get the notoriety and make sure that those intersections meet so that we have the support system to help uplift and make those changes? So if we do have a young person who may have special needs or may have something, how do we get the right education, the right conversations, and the right resources behind to help that family, right? In all areas, right? We talk about breast cancer, we talk about colon cancer, we talk about all these cancers that continually to impact our community. How do we get a handle on it, right? One of the other health issues that impact Black communities by tremendous is sickle cell, right? We don't even talk about.
Hypertension,
Yeah, I mean, this is a big problem,
diabetes.
and we have people who have the information, but how do we get them to feel connected and empowered? That it's not about profiting, but it's about how do I give back and make sure that my community get it. Are we really that selfish? Because yes, there's money that's needed in all of these avenues that we are, crossing. But how do we still make sure the people that suffer the most get access to those services or resources?
We had on Thursday for National Life Insurance Month. We had on Sean Johnson, and what he was saying, one part that he expressed that if more of our African American and Black people got life insurance, these health insurance companies will start changing these policies. Because if you're protecting your livelihood and you're pouring money into that, they're going to have to start changing these policies. And for us to be able to pour that in, that alone is something that we need to educate our community on, and getting life insurance, not just because, oh, because little Ray Ray is out there in the streets. No, because of our health issues. The statistics show how one day you can have a healthy 17-year-old boy who collapses on the basketball court due to some type of cognitiveness in his heart that went unnoticed because he's only gotten the minimum type of care because his mom couldn't afford proper insurance.
And I
Because they won't put him on that EKG machine when he's saying, I got a tightness in my chest. Oh, you must have asthma. They're going to play it off. Oh, every Black person has asthma. They're not going to actually do the work because of that poor care. So even that in its own can be a stepping stone for us actually advocating for our health.
Just like I told you about Alec, all those companies are in cahoots together. If you had every Black person had life insurance and the insurance company didn't want to pay out the life insurance policies, they're going to start advocating and legislating for different policies to make sure you live longer so they don't have to pay it out. See, I agree with that. I will go along with that.
And that's the chess move. I mean, going back to how do we get policies and things changed and moved? Again, this is the power of collective movement. When we're on code, again, if we're fighting an economic war, let's be honest. We're trying to have a moral conversation about healthcare and the human right to it with an amoral system that only cares about money. So if we're going to communicate with that system, we have to speak its language. So if we understand like economic moves, like the Panthers did, California used to have an open carry gun law. Like you used to be able to carry open weapons. But when the Panthers start doing it legally, we got to change the law. Shit, Black folks done change how they're behaving. So we're going to change the law to address that. So if we can start thinking and playing the chess moves as a group, and if we make moves and we can force their hand, we want the health insurance to kick up, then yeah, let's all invest in life insurance, push the needle. Like, okay, now we got to keep them healthy so we don't have to pay out the bread. So we have to play the game at that level while at the same time doing the other things that need to be done, both at the grassroots, in our neighborhood level, all the way to the city, state, and national level, politically and economically.
And
but
not trying to get off topic, but if you do that, I guarantee you all these police killings will go down too, because they're not going to let them police kill you if they know they got to keep paying out all these policies.
well, I mean, and that's one part of it, but you got to think the flip side of it too, right? When they set these policies up, right? You can't be on parole and have life insurance, right? You can't be incarcerated or have a life insurance policy.
Huh?
So that's said it again.
You can't be on parole and have life insurance.
Yeah. So yeah, you if you on active parole, you know you can't get a life insurance policy.
Yeah, but what if you already had it before?
So no, I don't know all the ins and outs of all the policies. I just know from people that I've talked to, you know, I've dealt with this over the last several months, from some of the deaths that have taken place in the community, talking to the families, like, you know, why? Because I'm always trying to figure out why, right? Why you guys didn't have life insurance on this person, right? We got these GoFundMe's, but why we don't have life insurance? Well, the way the policies are written, if you're on parole, and you have to be off parole for you have to do your parole, and then you have to be 2 years off of parole before you can even get a policy.
Well,
So
I never even
sometimes,
read that one before, so I'd have to learn more about that. But I had an uncle, it was my grandfather's brother. I didn't even know about him till I was 17 years old. My grandmother had died, and I was introduced to him. Couldn't to find out he was in prison all those years because he had shot a wife. My mama didn't even know who he was. She was asking me who he was, because she'd been married to my dad. Nobody ever knew about Uncle Brother, But when he got out of prison, he ended up dying before my great grandmother did. But she had kept this policy on him all the time he was gone. She had paid his life insurance policy every month faithfully. And when he died, she had that money to be able to pay for his funeral and pay for a nice funeral for him, So I'd have to look into that one a little bit more. There's got to be something new with that, with the parole and everything.
yeah, definitely take a look at it. It shocked me too. And it was like 3 families who talked about it with me. One of the struggles that folks are dealing with. The other thing, you know, I've been asking this on this show, and I know I've talked about it with some of our guests that have come in the past. You know, maybe we need more medical doulas, right, to advocate for our community. And then the other thing I've been asking some of the Black doctors that's come on this show is, how do we put together a maintenance list that Black folks need to be have checked when they go to the doctors, right? Because sometimes that gap between us speaking up and advocating for ourselves, because of the past traumas, dealing with these doctors, we're not really educating them on what services we need. You buy a car and it gives you a maintenance book and tell you, you got to change your oil, you got to do all of this stuff. And I've been asking some of these medical professionals, how do we put together a Black medical book, a checklist that all Black folks should be asking their doctors? Because what I'm finding from these conversations and talking to people, they go to these doctor's appointments, they don't know what to ask their doctors, right? They dealing with what they're there for. But when they're doing their regular maintenance checks, they don't know the things to ask when they pull in their labs or doing some of this stuff. So I've been asking some of these researchers. There's a guy from UCSF that I kind of brought this up to, and I'm saying, how do we create this? So a brother knows, a man, hey, when you go to the doctor, get this check, this check, this check, this check, because sometimes we're going to the doctor, but we're not getting the right checks. You know what I'm saying? And that's another a disparity that we have to fix if we don't know, right? So we know some of the things that's causing us these cancers and these different things, but how do we test for them preventively? Because a lot of times we go to the doctors, we do our lab tests, and we're doing, we're fasting to check certain things, cholesterol, high blood pressure, but we're not dealing with the other stuff genetically and full body x-rays and different things of that nature to find cancer cells, because those opportunities are out there. But again, it goes back to the insurance coverage you have and affordability, because I know they have these treatments out here where they can scan your whole body and see if you got any cancer cells in you. Now they got dogs that can smell and see if you have cancer, and just dog smelling. So it's a lot of things there. But if you don't have the service, the access to get to that, then you're still at the same point of standing still. But I've watched a couple of those documentary. They had these dogs now that they train that they can smell cancer in people and things of that nature. So it's pretty interesting stuff. But again, the cost to do all of that, if you don't have the resources to do it, we are at the same, space that we start from.
Knowing your history, ask these questions to your family and your parents and stuff like that. Me specifically, I know from my grandmother, both of my mother's parents passed away from cancer. My father's mother also had cancer and heart disease. So knowing those things, I did not, even having that education, they say it skips a generation. So I was getting screened and things like that. When I got sick, it went from pneumonia to bronchitis to them testing, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And once I was like, okay, I asked my mom specifically, what kind of cancers was it? My mother actually had cancer, and when I was doing a genetics testing for my boys, they needed to know specifically. Now, my mom was like, she's a little superstitious. If you give it a name, you give it the power. So I'm like, no, mom, I need this information. Like, this is for my children. Like, I need this information. So once she revealed that to me, I was able to put that in their charts. So they'll start to have screenings when they become of a certain age, that they'll have repetition of doing these screenings. Knowing your history and being able to ask those questions. Hey, I know my family has a history of this. They ask you those questions sometimes in those surveys when you go into your doctor's appointments. Does your family have history of smoking? Does your family, be honest? Hey, yeah, I was a smoker. Oh, yeah, I was a drinker. Or I did, whatever X, Y, and Z. So they can put that in your chart, and you can ask, hey, I'd like to be screened for these things. Advocate for yourself. Speak up and say, hey, what do I need to do to make sure that this is a part of my regimen when I come in for my 6-month checkup? Or, even though some hypochondriacs will be there every week, but when you're noticing something, just don't let it bypass. Like, oh, it's just a little tightness. Oh, my lungs just feel, a little, I just got this. I used to smoke a lot. I got a smoker's cough. That's it. Don't let those small symptoms become grand issues. So advocate for yourself also.
Well, one of the things that I also want to say, and I'm on some of these calls with healthcare professionals, right? Because of the PTSD and the trauma that Black folks experience dealing with our healthcare providers, we got to make the total health experience, you know, uh, realistic, right? Because a lot of times, people go to the doctors and they got to wait hours, so then they don't want to go, right? So how do we make this access better? Because a lot of times, people don't want to go to the hospital, have to sit there for 4 hours to get released, right? Even though it's the right thing to do, but that still happens. So it's like we have those challenges, and then we have the challenge of, trying to make sure, when we talk about advocating for ourselves, there was a time where when people would speak up to our medical folks, they would call the police to report them and different things of that nature. So it was like historically, it's been that disconnect. So if you going in there, you want to tell your doctor this, but you don't really want to put it back because of the simple fact that you know, have this trauma of, well, if I say that I'm using drugs, because this happens sometimes to our substance abuse users. Soon as they say, I'm using drugs, then with doctor, the care changes, right? Oh, I'm not gonna prescribe you this much. So it's a fine line, but I mean, it's like, how do we really have those conversations? How do we make the experience of Black folks who come into these medical institutions feel like the level of service is there, and also making that experience a real reality where they feel welcoming. And it's still a lot of work. It takes a lot.
Idlewild, literally. And again, I think we have to divorce ourselves from this need of integration, to still think, because a lot of us still think white ice is colder, white doctors are better, and the institution is the way. And I watched a documentary on Idlewild about 100 years ago when blacks started buying land in like central western Michigan, and they actually built a resort where black folks who couldn't go to hotels when they traveled or couldn't go to other places, we built our own resort where we could escape the pressures of racism and have our own sense of community. And while I understand practically and realistically in 2023 to have black folks completely divest out of the American culture and society is highly irrational, we do need to create our own black run, black funded, black owned safe zones where we control the medical establishment, where we control the food sourcing, where we control the information. We have to build a nation within a nation that we can honestly and safely interact without the pressure or invasion of other people's scrutiny or restrictions. Because a lot of the things that we do now through the system, we have to get permission, we have to get their funding, and we have to do it their way and allow them to control every aspect of it. And we know that historically, anything that we've tried to do on our own for our own good has been sabotaged from within. So we're just gonna have to create our own place where we can control it.
That's why the reparations that y'all fighting for out there is so important, because it's going to lay the framework and the groundwork for the rest of the nation. Because I got people always ask me about how's it going out there with them with the reparations. I've been working with this sister out of Philadelphia. She was the one who co-founded and organized the Million Women March in Philadelphia back in 1997, and they had almost 2 million women to show up for that, and had Winnie Mandela, Maxine Waters, all of them show up to speak. Jada Pinkett Smith, the daughters of Malcolm X, all of them. So she's been working on this around the country, and trying to find out what's going on and where. She was really in tune with what happened in Evanston, Illinois, to where they did it's sort of like a reparations thing, but they were providing housing for people of African descent who they felt had been that deserve reparations. So that went on there. She was in tune with that. She was asking me about what's going on in San Francisco. I know Sister Sakati, that you know her. She said she's part of that committee. So we need to find out what's going on there so they can lay the framework to open up for everybody around the country. So we need to have our own, because until we get our own, we just spinning our wheels, because whatever we do, they're going to sabotage, like Mark said. So we got to have our own food, our own education, our own communication, our own police system. We need to have our own political leaders. We need to have our own. And they're trying to do that down in the South, because what's the name of them? They're trying to get their own political leaders. It's all black, and they're trying to get black people to move back down south, because you got majority black in the southern states anyway, and they're trying to get enough blacks there where they can get enough people where we have our own people to go to Congress and run the state and do their own cities and everything else. I'll get their name for you. I'm just old right now, but as far as that dog, like you were saying, that smells the cancer and everything, that go back to what Mark was saying, for those ladies who got the bad attitude. And Kevin Samuels said, buy a dog and die alone. Well, that's another benefit for them, because if they get sick, the dog can smell it and let them know.
So you know what, General, you always give me. That's why I love you coming on here. But I gotta say this, because I'm still processing this, and I want to be transparent with the community. Everybody that know me, been watching me, y'all know how I feel about segregation. But going on this civil rights tour, looking at how hard Black folks fought for desegregation, it's a challenge for me. And I'm processing this right now, and I've been thinking about this since I've been on this trip, because I am for Black schools, I am for Black educators, I am for Black businesses, I am in that model, right? When you talk about the Black Panthers, the model has already been laid out. The 10 points system has already been laid out. It works. We know it works. But when you go to the South and you take this tour, it give you a different perspective, and it challenges me, right? And I understand what's going on in this country right now, how legislatively our Congress and our governors are across this country trying to remove the historic value of slavery and what's taking place to the African American community. Y'all know I'm big on the future. You know, I always tell people on this show I'm not a historian. Not that the history is not important. I just think we have, as Black folks, well, I would say this country invests so much in our community leaders talking about what happened in the past, and we don't really focus on the future. Um, Today's conversation is about how we change the future of healthcare, and I'm always thinking about it. But going on this trip have given me a perspective and value of how do we preserve our history, right? Because it's important. A lot of stuff that being a 44-year-old Black man here in California, you know, things that I didn't know in the school system. So when we talk about reparation and the harm that schools have caused to us, the lack of information and things that we have not been, given access to, or the right information, or the information that we have been given has just been a more of a performative thing and more of a surface area, and not going into the in-depth details to have a better understanding why and when and how we got to where we get. I think it's important. So I'm changing my stance a little bit of how we preserve history, but I'm always on the side of how we move forward.
All right.
Because I know this future that we have in front of us, the stuff we're talking about today, we're going to be having to compete against not only other human beings. We have the robotics, the AI, the technology, right? And we look at these workers right now who are striking, and you look in 10, 12 years, robotics and automation will remove most of those jobs. Pretty much robotics at most of these manufacturing plants right now build the whole car, right? You know what I mean? If you really think about it. When I think about how far our people are in all of these areas that we talk about, and healthcare is one of them, but every major statistical area, Black folks are at the bottom, brown folks are at the bottom. And we got to really look at how are we going to move this thing forward. And this is why I say the young people are going to have to get involved, but we're going to also have to change the system. Like, the fight has to be different from the political level, because we got to change the original things that brought us here. When we talk about the Constitution, when we talk about these legislative processes that's caused harm and disenfranchise our community, we have to change those very legislative forms, those original documents. The only way we can change this is the documents that have to be changed. Now you barking up a different tree. But how do we get our community and our folks to focus on dismantling those systems? Because the real system is, how do we remove lifetime federal judges, right? How do we remove that clause that's in our Constitution? These Supreme Court justices, they get lifetime seats. We have Democrats and Republicans who are holding seats for 30, 40, 50 years. Look at Joe Biden. Look at Mitch McConnell. We have folks who are getting lifetime seats. Mm-hmm. When do we change that? Right? And when you start talking about that, then people start saying, oh, well, you guys are discriminating on age discrimination. But this country is so behind because the ideals and the folks who are making these policies are coming from a place of their understanding from way back when and implementing it now. So the real change, the real opportunity is, how do we dismantle the very pieces of paper, the very legislative pieces of paper that holds us enslaved, hold us in segregation, and manipulate us in all of the things that we function day to day as American people. That's the real fight.
Well, the first thing we got to do is do what you did. You know, you got to have an open mind, because I remember when I first came on here, you was arguing with me about history, you know, and I was trying to tell you, you don't know where you're going till you find out where you've been. See, you got to learn the history of it. That way you never fall back into those traps, you know. And The same conference I'm going to next week, I was there last year. It's a pre-law conference, and they had a contest, and I won. And this was one of the books that I won. It was The Emancipation and the Making of the Black Lawyer from 1844 to 1944. And when I learned about that, man, it was so eye-opening for me. You know, not saying I wasn't an open brother in the beginning, but when I found out what we had to go through, they just to even get a school, you know, we finally got a law school in Howard University. You know, I think it was 1869 it was established. And then find out what the lawyers had to go through just to be able to become lawyers, and they weren't even accepted into the bar. And when you find out that history and find out what we had to go through, and we still only make up 4.5% of lawyers in the country to this day, you know, after all that. So when you find out that struggle and what the people that stood before you went through, and these are the shoulders that you stand on, that gives me the determination not to fall back. You know, I can look back, but I'm not going to fall back. And I'm definitely not going to close no doors behind me, because I'm trying to, and I'm an old man at this too while I'm doing it. You know, I want to open up the doors for those young people that you're talking about, so they can go through and use the wisdom of the experience that I've had in my life experiences and my court experiences and my prison experience and everything. Use that for these people to be able to take what I got and amplify it and to move on for our people, you know. But until you got people that's willing to stand in the gap, we're not going to get nowhere. So we'll need people like you, people like Mark, people like me, people like Sister White here, and Angelique, all of us. You know, we got to stand in the gap for our young people and let them know that ain't the way to do this. Let me tell you a story, okay? Let me tell you your history. Let me tell you who you are and where you came from and why you shouldn't do this, you know, or why you should do this. So until we got people that's willing to stand in the gap, man, like I said, I don't like spinning my wheels, you know. Everything that I do, I want it to be substantive, you know. I don't want to be doing things for glory. I don't want to be doing things just to say I've done something. I want to do things that matter and make a difference, and it's going to move my people forward.
Man, very, very powerful stuff. I'm there with you, you know, even with this understanding. I'm definitely going to continue to rise and uplift and continue to be the leader. When we talk about influence, I think, you know, we have to use the influence now to really make this change. It takes all of us. So I think this community effort, this wake up call, this call to action is about getting involved. We cannot sit in silence anymore, community. We have to get in the fight, get into what's going on and the know how. There's too many people in our community saying, I didn't know, I didn't understand, I didn't get it, I didn't know. We got to fix that. And I think, you know, this historic value, this education, this information, we're going to have to keep building these intersections up so that everybody gets the vital information that's needed to move us forward as a community, as a culture, as things are changing. All of these traumatic incidents are happening across our country, across the world, that we got to get ready for. Unity is going to be the most powerful thing that we have here in the future. Black folks, how do we get there fast? How do we start working with each other? How do we start understanding? How do we forgive? You know, one of the strongest points that, you know, I took away from this trip was some of the tragic stuff that happened to families, fathers, children during this time. And these folks still had the conscience, still had the humility, the empathy to forgive those who cause harm to their families. One of the most powerful things that I'm just like, wow, to still have the heart to forgive. As someone on the trip said, you have to be open for forgiveness as well. If you want to change, things happen. We as community have to be open. When the apology comes, can you receive it and let it go? When something happens, can you forgive? Sometimes we're so focused on the payback. Sometimes we are so focused on continuing the harm that we forget about how great it is to forgive and to move on, to release some of that energy that's in us that's terrible. I don't know. We got a lot of ways to go. There's a lot of thoughts that I'm still thinking. I'm listening to audio books right now from folks that I encountered. The power, the very essence of standing next to some of the phenomenal freedom fighters of this country, some of the patriots of this country, to be around the great changers of life, inspired me, and it has pushed me to continue to keep this fuel in me about Black liberation, Black connectivity, Black joy, Black excellence, to continue to highlight and push that forward in our community. We'll continue to do it here at both sides of the conversation. We will continue to find ways to make these intersections connect. We're going to continue to work with all of the folks in our community so that we could change the things that need to be changed in our community. Some of the difficult conversations, community, we're going to have them. We're going to be doing some stuff with our police department. We'll be doing something with some of our different elected officials. We got to have the conversation. We can't just say, no, I don't want to talk to them because they this. If we don't have these conversations, if we don't build those relationships, if we don't start finding a way to change the hearts and the minds of the people, we're going into a place that we don't want to go. And I'm gonna leave it there because we have to find this common ground in our community, and it's going to take a lot. And to the folks outside of our community, we all have to be able to listen. And even when we don't agree, and even when we feel like the things that we're talking about is not being heard, how do we stay focused? How do we stay engaged to continue to change the pages of the books and the chapters and the information that's needed so that we can move forward? It's going to take a lot, but we'll get there. We will have patience. We will have resilience. We will uplift each other. We will find a way, because I believe the farther the gap of disparities go, the more folks are going for survival, the more we feel we can't step. I feel like the pot of pressure will blow. The steam will be released and the folks will come together. We are headed in these times now. Mother Nature is teaching us right now. Look at Morocco. Look what's going on in Libya. There is something happening, and we have to all band together, because the very disasters that we look at will be coming here on our home shores as we continue to move into the next years, and until we improve our environments, until we improve our healthcare. Disease will move faster through our communities if we don't change. These health disparities will cause us the pain and the grief that we don't want to see. So if we want to make the change, we all have to get involved. It's a team approach. All cultures, all boundaries, folks sticking together to really call into action and lift the voice of the people to make the needle change. We'll do our part, and we'll be standing there with you. With that being said, I know it's late. We got to get out of here. First day back. The bishop's already running us into the grave. But before we go, I want to make sure that we give everybody in the community an opportunity to hear from us as we part out. I'll be back, community. I know y'all missed the bishop, even though y'all say y'all want me gone. There's an uprising coming. There's a volcano that is going to erupt. If we don't do our part, this health disparity will continue to crush our community. The health boogeyman, as they say, will knock at your door if you're not willing to make the change. With that being said, Brother Parker, before you leave, I want you to give some parting words to the community before you get out of here. This has been a very powerful conversation about health, community building, and I'm just happy to be here in conversation with you in community. I hope you valued today's conversation. Some real work that we had to do. The preventative model is the model that we need to pull forward in our communities. Brother Parker, talk to the people.
Well, before I go, I just want everybody to know how much I care and love my people, how much I've advocated for and fought for my people. Sometimes I have to stand alone and fighting for people who didn't even want to stand up and fight for themselves. And we talked a lot here about history and the history of healthcare in this country and the history of our people. I think as we talk about their history, I believe that we've been too forgiving and forgiven too much. They've done too much to us. So I don't mind the forgiving, but I'm definitely not going to forget. And but I definitely ain't one to forgive people who don't ask for forgiveness in the first place. So you got to show me that you are resentful or what other things that you've done to me and my people in the past. But I want people to leave here and know that if you don't hear nothing else I said, to just educate yourself about your body and your health. And when I say health, I don't just mean your physical, I mean your mental too. Okay, because to me that's even more important. But learn about your body, ask, Google, do whatever it is you need to do, and don't just take people's word for what's going on with you. If you have to, get a second opinion. Because there's a white doctor you done just met, and they don't know you from Adam, so you can't tell me they care more about you than you do. So it's ultimately in your hands, your health. And if you got any questions, call the bishop up. If he don't know, he'll call me or Mark. And we'll tell you, but we'll get the answers for you. But we love you. Keep your health up. I just left Oakland last week. Had a service from my uncle. He died. Didn't know what happened to him. I just seen him in April. He looked like he was the fittest person that I ever known. And then the next thing I know, he died, and all his hair was gone. The teeth was gone. He became 6 shades darker, and they still can't tell me what happened to him. So I'll be checking into that. But see, that's what I'm saying. You got to stay up on your health. And then when he died, they had to do a GoFundMe. And I told my family, I told y'all years ago, I'm tired of this happening. Every time somebody died, we got to have a GoFundMe, and we all know we got to die. We need to prepare for it. So be prepared. Proper preparation proper planning prevents poor preparedness. Okay. So just go ahead on and do what you need to do and take care of yourself, because I'm tired of going to funerals. Y'all need to be coming to mine. I'm too old. I'm tired of the people my age, older, and especially those of you younger than me that I've been burying, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. So I love you, and till the next time.
Man, thank you for being here. It's always an honor to have the general here, community. Another brother who cares about the people, but community. We have to also be open to talk about our health and our cancers and things that we deal with to our young people. I know a lot of times in our community, we don't talk about it. We don't want to tell the kids. We don't want to put worry on them. But I think sometimes that's the prize information so that we all can work together to make sure we're doing our part to find out more information, how to help our loved ones, especially if it's about diet, nutrition, herbals, whatever it is. We have to be a part of that process. But thank you again, Brother General, for being here. It's always a pleasure. Always great to have the great wisdom of Brother Parker, and he always makes us laugh before he leaves. So thank you for the laugh today. I need it because I've been in a space of rehealing after going through this past traumatic experience of, as they say, I went through the time machine to the current day. I'm back on ground here, 2023, but I just came from 1950, and it's been a very, very interesting experience. But thank you for being here, Brother Mark. Before we let you go, the voice, he's been holding it down for me. Y'all haven't heard the voice of the bishop, but the voice of Brother Mark has been here loud and proud. What's going on, brother?
Well, Bishop, as again, wonderful conversation as always. Glad to be here. Glad you're back. Salute to you, General, and of course, always the amazing IO. But I'm reminded of this conversation. One of the great pioneers in African studies and history, Dr. John Henrik Clark, he made this statement. He says, everything that touches our life must be an instrument of our liberation. Although personally I'm a universally uh person of love, I have no ill will towards anybody. I have love for all people, but I do recognize the historical context and differences that my own community faces and its unique challenges. Because we are a people who have been under oppression now for almost 600 years, everything about our life, from our religion to our education, to our economics, to even our health care, must be strategically and intentionally used as a instrument, a tool, a resource to move us forward collectively as a people to a more free and liberated state of existence. So when it comes to paying attention to our healthcare and the challenges that we're facing in this country, we have to be intentional. We have to get unified, and we have to be willing to pay the price that our freedom cost. It's not going to be given. We're going to have to take it. So I just want to encourage community, everybody listening. Thank you. Hopefully you've gotten something that has empowered your level of awareness so that you can start taking small, consistent actions towards a better state of health, both physically and mentally. And again, I saw the comment too. I just wanted to give a shout out, son of Italy, whoever you are. Thank you for watching the program and joining, becoming a follower. Notice it was your first time. This is what we do every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday night here on both sides of the conversation. So we invite you to come back. But again, Bishop, thank you for everything.
Man, thank you, brother. Just happy to be back in space. Community's been looking for me. I've been hiding. I don't know, community. I've been in a time warp. Okay? But I'm back. Sister Io, all the way from heaven. I see the lights glowing on you. You got your hologram. I don't know. Io's getting a beam from heaven, you guys. She's here, though.
She is looking pretty angelic, ain't she?
Well, I just want to first and foremost thank you, General. It's always a pleasure having you on. Very informative, and there's never a dull moment with you on, for sure. Community, we thank you for tuning in this Sunday, and we appreciate the comments and asking questions. It's okay to ask questions, especially when it comes to your health. Advocate for yourself. Do the homework, do the research. It is okay. Like we've said in numerous different ways this evening, that it's a mind space thing. So definitely taking care of your mental health. We've had on this past, I believe it was last Sunday, our mental health show, how important it is to get your mind together, because the thought process is just so much more. And like I said, when you think about it, we sometimes have conditioned ourselves to what good food is, to what flavored food is. We eat for substance, for our body's fuel. So what you're feeding in your body, you don't want to and everyone wants to put premium in their tank, right? You don't want to go and put that just because it's cheaper, watered down fuel in your car. So think about that when you are putting these things in your body. What you read, what you consume visually, all of these things play a grand part in your health. You want to make sure that you are feeding yourself in every orifice: mind, body, soul, ears, eyes, mouth, healthy things that will fuel your body to make sure you have longevity and that you have the consistency of what you expect for yourself. Model behavior is very important, especially for those who have little ones looking up to them, community leaders, especially, because we are the little people looking up to you. Lead by example. Go get those checkups. Men, it's okay. Don't think about what you were taught about somebody checking you in your rear area. It's okay. Go get checked, because you don't want something to come up and you don't know where it came from. Regular screenings are very important for both men and women in our communities. So just go ahead and be your own advocate.
Thank you very much. Great words to the community. With that being said, community, I'm going to give the benediction. It's been a while. I don't even know if I can get through the benediction today, but I'm going to try because I've been waiting. I've been getting calls from people. Bishop, I need a benediction. I need to hear what you have to say because you're important. I didn't think I was that important, but I guess I am. People are listening. And if I don't have the answers, I will connect with the right people to feed the people in our community. This trip has enriched me with a lot of information that I'm going to bring back to my young people. I'm going to bring back to the community. We must learn and we must give. And I'm going to give the knowledge that I've learned back to my young people, community educators. You have a responsibility to make sure that the stories are told, to make sure the stories are highlighted. There are so many advanced stories that need to be told in our community that our community needs to know. And it only happens if we continue to educate and give back to our communities. With that being said, I'm going to give the benediction now. Community, it's been a great show. The first day back, the bishop. I am back in the Bay. I'm here with the people. We talked about a very, very important topic today. When we talk about healthcare, We're talking about the holistic, the whole part of our health. We talk about the mental health. We're talking about the food that we eat. We're talking about the things that we have to do to continue to wake and rise every day. If we're not okay, we can't move. We can't do the things that we need to do. So make sure you are in tune with your body. Put your feet on the ground. Get in touch. Feel the aches, feel the pains, and make sure that you are speaking up. Be an advocate. I've heard that so many times. How do I advocate for myself? We need doulas. We need more educators of medical and science to come talk to our community. All of you amazing nurses, all of you amazing Black doctors, I need you to set up clinics and educational portals so that our community understand the preventive measures that we need to take before we go into the reactive mode. Too many times in our community, we are reacting to the things that we find out. We have to change the model. We have to get into the preventive mode of educating, preparing our people in our community, how to go get checked, what to go get checked for, how to live a healthy and prosperous life. It's going to take us all. We know in our community, there's a food desert. We know there's more McDonald's, more fast food, more unhealthy places to eat than there are healthy. We have to change that. We change it by holding our dollar. See, back in the days, they talked about boycotts, the most power of holding the dollar. When folks can't profit off you, they will change. It is our job to change the way we eat, to change the way we think. We have to receive and remove those post-traumatic stress syndromes. The only way we can do that is by getting the mental health treatment that we need. There's an opportunity for us to change the healthcare lands in our communities. We must get insured. We must go to the doctors. We must stand up and do the things that we need to do so that we can live long, healthy life. Tap into the organic. Tap into the things that we need. Sometimes we need to hear from the ancestors. Sometimes we need to hear from the folks that are bringing the natural herbs. Sometimes we need to get to the farmers market. We need to get to the lands where the food is being grown and produced and sold at. We can't just wait for the Walmarts and the Safeways and all of the local stores that we use to get food. We must find a pathway to healthier food. Maybe that's taking a drive. Maybe that's going out of our community. But we have to connect and find a way to bring farming, to bring healthy foods back into our community. We must challenge each other to find a way to change this health narrative. We can do it. Black men, we must get checked. We must do our part to educate the young man under us to know that it's okay to get a colostomy check, to go and get your pancreas checked, to go and make sure that none of the hazards that's in our body sometimes spread to further spots. We don't want to be at stage 4 and 5 when it's too late. We have to take the preventive measure. Let's teach this in our families. Let's bring back the cooking, the unity of the family, cooking together, eating together, praying together. We have to do this. We've been missing something for so long, and it's the connectivity of our ancestors and our families. Let's make the connection. Let's put this puzzle together. Let's bring back the Sunday dinners. Let's bring back the opportunity for families to cook and enjoy putting a meal together. The part of the preparation is understanding the ingredients. The ingredients of our community is love, compassion, working together and uplifting each other. We must put that in the recipe to have the great food. I am back now. I'm excited. I got a new fire lit in me, community. I got some processing to do, but I'm here and I will walk on side of the giants of our community. There are some stories that's untold. There are some things that we need to bring to the light. This Tuesday, the fight begins. I'll be there. You'll see me at the steps of City Hall for reparations. Don't miss out. Make sure your voice is heard. Be there as we make history here in San Francisco. Don't let this opportunity pass you up now. Reparations is to repair the harm that's been caused. The years have passed. The advancement of institutions have rise. The time is now to repay for all of the profits that they made off the backs of our ancestors. Don't let them tell you other. It's too much money. Don't let them tell you we're asking for too much. If you look at the very companies and corporations of this country who profited off the transatlantic slave ports Oh, it will blow your mind. The billions and trillions, the ask that we are asking to repair the harm, to make sure that we have the financial capacity to take care of us and our health care, the financial capacity to live in a decent environment, the financial capacity to get the education and information. Is not too big of an ask. Those 145 plus asks that are asking are not unrealistic. It is not too much. It will not break this city. It will not break this country. Reparations will not close down this country. Don't let them fool you. They have made trillions. They have passed down generations of wealth. It is time for our voices to be heard. As Mark said, we're going to have to take what is ours. We can't sit back. We cannot knock. We must now open the doors and walk in together in unity. All of our allies that are out in the community, don't be silenced. Open up your voice. Be a part of the change. You know the harm. You understand the disparities. You understand the policies that have been put in place by the very institution to oppress Black people. Yes, the American Blacks are due the reparations for the harm that not only this country, but the very people that wants to be in power has in play. It is all of our job. Do yours this Tuesday. I'll see you out there at the steps of City Hall, and we start the rally as we go and have public comment and talk about the very conversation of reparation in our city. To all of the city officials, to all of the folks, that has the power to make the change. Today is the day. We will find out. Are you an ally? Are you for the advancement of people? Are you about the change? Will you change the narrative to make sure that the people who deserve those reparations that were taken will be repaid? I don't know, but we'll find out this Tuesday. What side of the fence are you on? Are you the change maker? Are you the person that is going to change the narrative? All it takes is a vote. All it takes for you to uplift your voice and say, today is the day we change the narrative in this country. San Francisco, all of our elected officials, this is your time to move the needle in history to change the narrative. With that being said, community, thank you all for tuning in. The bishop is back, the first day back, and it was great. And we're going to get even greater because I got some great, amazing folks that are going to come on and bring their stories of the harm that's been caused by this racist society that we live in. Don't worry, it's coming. Be there this Tuesday. We will be out at City Hall. We will have our Hidden Gem show to continue to highlight our Black and brown businesses, our community leaders, and folk that are doing amazing things to impact community. I might not be here because I'll be on the steps of City Hall, but my team will be here to uplift those people this Thursday. We are still looking for some more folks to come on, educate our community. Today's been a great conversation. Where's my doulas at? Where is all of my folks that are in the medical profession? I need you to come on, talk to the people, put a PowerPoint presentation together, educate our community. All of my sickle cell people, all of the folks that are dealing with different cancers that continue to impact our community. I need you to come let our community know this is the time to educate, uplift, and move the people forward. I don't know where you at, but I'll be out there with the people moving it forward. None of this happened without the people. We will continue to uplift those voices. With that being said, community, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. I'll see you. I'm back. You'll see me somewhere. Get ready to see the bishop. It's a new bishop. Have a great day, everybody.